Hello? Okay, let's go. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, myself, Bala Madali from Verizon, and I lead the conversational AI and generative AI product experiences for our Verizon consumer group. I know Verizon doesn't need an introduction. Many of you are already might be a customer of Verizon or soon to be. Thanks for being a Verizon customer. It starts with that because we love our customers, and having loyal customers is super important for any brand. What I'm here to is to share a story of our AI journey. As you know, AI has been around for a long time now, and as you can anticipate, brands like Verizon, we would have invested a lot of money and the resources into make some things happen on the AI. And we've been almost there for a decade, and things have been going good. And many of the practitioners and evangelists of AI are in this room. There's a huge shout out to the entire Verizon team here, because they have been running this for almost a decade. And we have unlocked tremendous business value over a period of time. Maybe it's in the form of a chatbots, voice bots, recommendation engines, or like routing logic, algorithms. All these things have been part and parcel of Verizon's AI journey. All has been going good. So what is new? That was being the strange thing going on, right? Like, come November 2022, ChatGPT comes into play, and the buzzword around everywhere around is generative AI. Then it made us to think back and ask a broader question on what's our current AI strategy, and is it relevant to the generative AI world? What should we be doing? Should we stop what we are doing? Should we pivot from what we are doing? And what should be our next steps? Because imagine this, for a company like Verizon, we have invested tons and tons of dollars into this space already. So what are the next phases of this journey? What should we be doing? That was the exact time and the precise moment where we thought this is a good time for us to go back to the drawing board and revisit our existing strategy and how we move forward with it. And imagine this in any company of this size. The kind of questions you might face is, hey, should we just shut down everything and move on to the new things? Or should we blend all these things together? Then we came up with a beautiful package to tell a story of our journey so far and what are going to be the next steps of the journey. And also, as well, should we revisit our strategy and the vision and how we've been approaching this? So that's what I'm here to share. The next few slides is all about that story and that vision, the strategy, and the execution roadmap on how we moved on. With that said, I'll start off with this. Over the last 100 years, we have seen some amazing technological advances the humankind has ever seen. As you can see, it moved the humankind to think the art of possible, because for simple things like how we travel, how we communicate, and how we consume information. Automobile is one classic example. It made an average human being to see the world beyond their county, beyond their city, beyond their country, and at times continent. Internet opened up the wealth of information. It expanded the information canvas to infinity. Like, world was so huge, now you started thinking, oh my God, so much of information. With that, it brought a sense of grounding to every human being, as like there is a lot more to learn, and also triggered the curiosity within every one of us. So you can see this internet expanded the canvas of what we can consume and what we know. And then came mobility. Mobile devices, what the amazing thing about mobile devices was, it was able to package a world of information into pocket-sized bytes that you can consume anywhere, anytime, on anything. Because just information just... It's a very blank canvas. It's for us to shape what the future looks like and how we draw how do we draw the next important things for the next generation. Because with the generative AI and the overall AI, the important thing is how do we leave this world a better place than what it is today? Because we need to be responsible, and if we don't be responsible, there are consequences out of this one. So we are at the cusp of an important moment in this whole generational shift. So now, looking at all this stuff, you might think, wow, this is all amazing, but still this is at 30,000 foot level. Imagine you going and presenting to your leaders and the C-suite leaders, like, okay, what do you want to do with this? What's the next steps on this one? So this is where the important thing came into the picture. So we started with a simple test across our stakeholders and the key leaders and the people in the organization. And we asked them a very simple question. What does AI mean to you? So maybe you can ask yourself as you're listening to this. So guess what? When we ask this question to people in the room, the it's ranged from somebody saying that the robots working on the factory floor. Somebody said it is all about the chatbots, like the Chat GPT, Alexas of the world, and other things. Somebody said it's a recommendation engine, like powering your Netflix experiences or the YouTube experiences. As you can see, when it comes to the word AI, people have different interpretations. It was very important for us to establish a common vocabulary and a common ground within the organization. Because when you present about something about your chatbot, people are thinking about models, then it won't work. When you're talking about your recommendation engine, people talk about chatbots, then you're never able to strike a chord. So in an organization of size of Verizon, it was very important for us to establish a common vocabulary and the common terms and on how we drive the strategy forward. With that, we did this amazing work. On what we did was we did a bunch of all our efforts. We packaged all these efforts into three broad categories, saying that AI working in the background, AI-powered experiences, and AI itself as an experience. As the category name suggests, AI in the background is a bunch of things that happen in the background, like an RPA or whatever the bunch of things that happens there, and many of the algorithms that power things there. And AI-powered experiences is where you can see them to coming to the life. Either it's on your digital properties, your app or web or any other place. That's where the AI-powered recommendations comes into play. And last but not the least, AI itself is an experience where humans are directly communicating with AI. Whether it's your chatbot, it's your voice bot, or the agent talking to you. Establish a common vocabulary and a common ground before we move further into this one. So this helped us to bring it down, bring the elevation down from 30. Generally brings only marginal improvements and marginal value generation. Whereas when you think of in a holistic way at an application level, are you redefining the way you're doing marketing? Are you redefining the way you're doing operations? That's where the application level comes in. So we thought this is a great opportunity with the generative AI and all the past AI efforts that we have been doing. How do we move from one phase of this, from a point solution to application to ultimately to the system level? Our goal is to move towards a system level. When you say system level, it means that AI is broadly applied across the organization, either it's in finance, like marketing, all across the organization. That's a new way of doing business. That's what makes your businesses future ready. Because if you can just keep doing marginal improvements, we might get some benefits, but it doesn't unlock the overall value. So that's where we charted our approach. We said like we'll move away from a point solution, migrate, like mature ourselves to the application, and eventually to the system-based approach. So we need to translate all this approach, and the other broader categories into broader vision. And that's what the next slide which you see is, our goal is to be the best AI applied company in the world. That's what our broader goal is. When you say that AI applied company, that means that we have broadly applied AI across our organization, the way we have done things, the way we launch an offer, launch a product, how we service a product, how we do anything around it is all powered some form of an AI. So that's where we want to go. That what that enables really is time to market of any of your products and ideas in a much faster way. You do business at a different realm to what we are doing it today. So that's the whole idea of it. We translated that particular approach and the strategy into this one vision statement. Our goal is to be the best AI applied company into the world. And then comes the real challenge. How do you translate this vision? You need to we translated this vision into three broad vectors of execution, One from a lens of a customer, one from the lens of an employee, and one from the lens of productivity. When it comes to the customer, I'll start off with an example. Like if you, I know many of you would have explored the chat bots or the voice bots, and we predominantly, the industry have always used conversational AI to build these chatbots. And as we all know, conversational AI is deterministic in nature. Like, as an example, you can go to any of your bots and say, let's say in Verizon's context, you can ask, what's my bill? And you can also ask, why is my bill high? In both these scenarios and both those situations, we will recognize that as simply the customer wants to know about the bill. And we will throw the bill experience. But as humans, we know when somebody says, what's my bill, they are coming from a very neutral part of the emotion, because they are not unhappy or anything, they just want to know the bill. Why is my bill high is a kind of a nudge that they're giving you, telling that I'm not happy with something with you. We can't give the same experience. If somebody talks to us in person, we don't work that way. So that's why, how do we bring that into our chatbots? That's where we thought we will blend our conversational AI and generative AI, so that based on the dynamic needs of how the customers are expressing what they're looking for, we can pivot our experiences. So basically, this is a very classic example of how can you blend what you have done already and how you take it to the next level. So that's the power of a customer side of the house. And when it comes to the employee, when I say employee, what employee means is, in our context, as a first and foremost thing is, the employees who serve our customers. We have a bunch, like thousands of employees who serve our customers. We are always thankful to the job, because it's one of the very difficult jobs to do, because people walk into the stores, people call into the call centers, they talk to our messaging center agents. There's a ton of conversations that go on there. But I know many of you in the room would agree, that's one space we have not radically disrupted it over a period of time. They are living within applications and things that were built 30, 40 years back in some form or shape, and people keep putting bandages to it. We have never completely reimagined that from ground up approach. But imagine these people who are handling this and doing this job on a day-to-day basis. They got a customer, an irate customer on the other side of the phone, and they have to search information, and they have to scan through thousands of documents or hundreds of documents and multiple sources of documents to get to answer to the customer question. So imagine this, you're on the phone, you're on the hook, and parallelly you have to do this. You might say, hey, all of us can do multitasking, but imagine this, you're on the hotline and you have to perform better. So it's a very challenging environment for these employees. So we use generative AI to basically scan through all the documents that they use, thousands of documents that they use, and provide them with a chatbot or a bot that can simply answer the questions that they were looking for. So it made their life easier. So this is another classic case of, we have been using AI in some form or shape in our agent ecosystem, but when we wanted to bring in the generative AI, we have been smart to see what is the real problem, what are we trying to solve, and how do we make a difference there. So that has been really instrumental in many of the successes that we have seen there. And last but not the least is the overall productivity. Every human being aspires to achieve more. And that's the mantra for us on generative AI. We really want to help use generative AI to drive productivity, to exceed the expectations, and also unlock more value for the overall business. Because that's the key for, like, what is it for me? Because everybody is excited about some form of a generative AI, but how do you put that into use, into day-to-day what you do, and how do we elevate the value is super important for us. With that said, this was our vision. We translated this vision into 3 vectors of execution. We thought everything is going great, and we were very happy about things. But guess what? What happens? The existing operational playbooks that you have doesn't come into play for anything useful in generative AI world. You need to reimagine some of the existing ways of you doing operationalizing experiences or channels or anything that we do within a company. So that's where we came up with this approach of generative AI playbook. In the past, when anybody wants to build an experience, they would simply build an experience and they launch it. That's what you do. But when it comes to the generative AI world, I would say the other speaker was speaking before me said that it's all about the data. Good data leads to good outcome. It's very, very important for us on how we ingest, what we ingest into the generative AI framework and the LLM models. So ingestion is an important process, and there needs to be efficacy in what we do and how we do it there. And the models. The next comes how we build the models. Like, it's not about like just figuring out things after they are done. While you're building the models, how are you introducing the efficacy measures to make sure that it is not driven by any bias, and it is also working in a responsible AI. What do you set up for the company? So we establish stage gates in each of these process steps. And then, as you know, the models get built every day. And like people keep enhancing it like no other tomorrow. That's the rate of change that we get into the models. As these models are built, it is very, very important to ensure that they work consistently as they go through these iterations. That's why then we came up with this idea of a golden set, where what typically a customers would ask or employees would ask, we would make sure that each and every iteration of the model passes through that test so that we can do what we do. And the next step is the product fit, which is very, very important because there is this notion of generative AI being a new play toy that everybody loves and everybody's craving to get into it. But within an organization construct, right, like it's more about you need to blend it with an existing solutions. If you don't blend it with existing solutions, this is a new shiny toy on the side. People will use it for a while and then they will skip it. So important element for doing this journey is all about how do you fit that into an existing product model so that they do existing product model and as an experience so that people don't feel they have to learn anything new. So this really helped us was when we took this approach, the learning curve almost came to zero because we don't have to spend time on training how to use it, what to do with it, because it is part and parcel of the game. And the last but not the least, because there is always this skepticism and the people use this when you come to, especially on the employee ecosystem, is really AI is going to change my life? Is it going to make it better? So there's always this, or is it going to take my job? So it ranges from various spectrum of things. It's very important for us to involve the end users into the game and make them part and parcel of the overall process, enable to get the feedback from them, and also improve the whole process. And last but not the least, be transparent with your customers, right? Like no matter what you're doing, how you're doing, we need to tell them these responses are generated by generative AI, like maybe it might be wrong. We would love to get feedback to make it better, but being transparent has been super helpful. So this was a new playbook that we had to put it into action. Then it became any kind of a generative AI experiences that we want to launch across the board. We just follow this process, and it has been super, super helpful for us. I would love to share with you because there are many things to do, but this is one of the simple framework that really helped us. And last but not the least, which you see at the bottom of the slide, one is very important to know all these playbooks and everything, but culture plays an important part of this equation because what is the level of mindset that the people have to the change, right? It's very important. But in Verizon, we have been lucky. We work in a very agile model, and there is an increased appreciation of the test and learn. It's just not about just don't do things, like it's more about test and learn and quickly pivot. And also from a leadership perspective, there's always the support of try things so that you can move forward rather than move backward. So I would just leave you with this mindsets on agile, fail fast to learn, and launch and love, because launch and love is one of my favorite topics, because in many of the product experiences, people launch products and they forget about it, and then it's important to show some love, go to it and see whether it's working, it's not working. So with that, one last thing I would leave you with, a framework to measure the success in the generative AI world. I know many of you have launched many of the generative AI experiences. There are tons and tons of things to measure. When we started off this journey, we had 30 or 40 things to measure. Then we synthesized this into just 4 things. One is like if you're putting all these models in place and everything in place, when you put the bots or anything, when you leverage the generative AI, the first and foremost thing is it able to provide an answer to your question? So that's what comes under the answerability. And then when it answers your question, is it accurate? How accurate is it? That's the high accuracy. And then misleading is nothing but the hallucinations. What percentage of the time is it hallucinating? And then when you put it into action, what are the end users talking about it? That's the high satisfaction numbers we are looking for. So I know this has been a bunch of things we shared about a framework, our pivot in the strategy, how we have embarked on this journey. These are some of the tools that has really helped us to navigate the journey and define the next phase of this journey with all the AI work that we have done in the past and how we want to move into the generative AI world. I will leave you with this last one slide. When Verizon, we strongly believe we want to disrupt ourselves rather than get disrupted. That's why Verizon is in the forefront of all the innovation that you see, either it's in the 5G or in the AI world and other things. We don't speak a lot about other things that we do at Verizon because we just do it for ourselves. We are not a company who can sell solutions, at least from these product perspective. So that's been our journey. I would say thanks for listening to me. Thanks for your time. And I hope you find something useful out of it. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, I saw many people kind of roaming in as we went through, so I wonder if you're open to it, take a couple of questions from the floor, if that's okay. We've got a couple of mics to be able to roam, so if anyone's got any questions, then we can take a couple with Bala. So anyone want to kick us off with something? Otherwise, I'm definitely going to ask him some things. Okay, gentlemen.
Just wait for the mic. Just wait for the mic.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was a great talk. I really appreciated the structure of that. The framework that you had, where you had the product fit towards the right side of it. I'm just curious about your perspective on how early product fit comes into that framework as well. You know, you set it up with data, building the models, that sort of stuff. As we go beyond sort of the more straightforward use cases of a chatbot over your data and that sort of thing, it seems, I agree with your point, which is like you have to, in the enterprise, you have to integrate with those systems as well. But how early does product fit come into that framework in practical reality, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because the product fit starts at two phases. The one is the operational phase that I covered. At part of the strategy, when we decided that we want to move away from point solution to the application level, we made some broad choices or broad strokes on, hey, these things are going to exist, but we're going to take it to the next level of what we are doing. Let's say our recommendation engines or our chatbots. These things existed, but how do we elevate it to the next level and expand the scope of wherever it is being used, and how do we take it broad-based within the company? So that was the approach we took. And the product fit from an execution point of view, it helps you like to tell the story on, I'm not throwing something new at you. You've been used to this. Like I've just made it better for you. That's it. So that's the approach we took.
So it's not a whole new experience, but it's an
Yes.
integrated experience with
Yeah,
that.
I think that's a good point. The approach we are going to take is we're going to introduce you that way, but eventually we'll challenge whether is it even needed, or like we'll eliminate a few things as the time progresses.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions?
I'll ask one.
Yes.
Yeah, go.
So, Bala, earlier in the slides, you talked about the time frame, and you. We've seen AI moving very fast, so we see time frames consolidate. How do you set the time goals around when something successful, where you get back out and try the next one? So, assuming you take an agile approach, something, not everything is going direction one, you got to cancel it. So what do you see in terms of something like say 12 months, something like 4 months, and then how are you changing frames based on the developments in AI?
Yeah. So, the interesting thing within Verizon is when generative AI came in, it drew a lot of excitement within the company. Everybody wanted to sign up what I can do for you. So some of the journey that we have talked about, like when we started just 12 months back on this journey, as we speak right now, we embarked on 4 broader journeys, and we have already launched all the 4 of them, and we have seen some success with already of that. So I would say in our point solution, we quickly pivot. We don't make a lot of, we quickly pivot based on when things don't work, we shut it down, we move on to the next thing. Whereas when it comes to the application level, it's a long-term strategy. It's almost 12 to 24 months because you have to change the whole application. And for system, it would take time. For me, like I would envision Verizon could be in 3 to 5 years time frame that way, or it could be less. Depends on what's the appetite to change, and because it's a broader change across the company. Like as I said in my talk, when you ask the question about AI, what does AI mean to you? There are people who are skeptics, right? Like I don't like any of that stuff. So you need to balance each of those expectations and move the journey forward. So.
One thing I want to ask you is, so you talked about the 3 different types of AI that we see, right? Which was, I think, the kind of AI in the background, the AI-powered experiences, and then AI as the experience. When you think about how customers view those things, the one in the background maybe they don't know very much about.
Yep.
The one where they sense there might be some kind of AI involved, but the one on the far right of that is where AI is actually a part of that experience. Do people, or are you seeing different ways that customers kind of not just use them, but feel about the fact that AI is in the front and center there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because when you look at the recommendations-based stuff, people don't even know whether it is powered by AI. They think that is right for them. I think people's perception also changes and depends on the situation.
Yeah.
For example, when a customer is in a good mood, like they really don't want to wait on the line, but they want to know an information. If they're in a neutral zone of emotion, they like the chatbot, they will work with the chatbot. But if they are extremely irate and they're not happy with something, then the bots doesn't understand that they don't use the bot in a different
Yeah.
way. So what is important for us is to detect the situation of the customer and the emotion that they express. Based on that, we have to make decisions on, is even AI relevant to the situation?
Yeah.
And I think that's the better experience we can offer in many situations. Like when your phone is broken in Verizon's context and you've been trying for the last 3 days, there's no point in offering an AI to you. Like first just address the problem and get the job done. So
Yeah.
I think it's more about, for most of the AI is all about the LLM and other things. It's about the understanding the human psychology and the human emotion. How quick we can detect that could be the next fundamental change in how we do things.
Well, Bala, thank you so much for sharing with us this morning. And if you want to grab Bala afterwards, we've got a little bit of a break in here as our next speaker, unfortunately, is unable to join us from Merck. So we'll have a few minutes break. So feel free to come back in a moment. But also take this opportunity to connect with him and the rest of the Verizon team. And Bala, thank you again for being here this year and sharing with us. Let's give it up for Bala. Thank you.